'cause I like that. You know, you're outside.
I go in the afternoon. Good afternoon. I would like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting. It is 4:30 on Thursday, November 21st, 2024. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the October 31st, 2024 Planning Commission meeting. Are there any corrections? Additions? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll offer a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes have been approved. Now we'll open the public hearing portion of the meeting. The first item on the agenda is the Hesse Schaefer interim use permit. City report.
All right. Good evening, everyone. John Nisley, planner with the City of New Ulm. So this is an interim use permit request to allow a bakery business to operate in a building located in the RT2 zoning district. And I will note this is a fairly lengthy staff report. There's a lot of history and information in here, but some stuff that's very interesting. So the applicant is Holly and Justin Schaefer, and the property owners are Stephen and Jennifer Hesse. The legal description is the rear half of Lot 14, Block 147, north of Center Street. The street address is actually 914 Fifth North Street. The property is located east of North Jefferson Street and north of Fifth North Street. A deadline for a decision on this request is December 30th, 2024. The comprehensive plan land use designation for this property is low-density residential. Surrounding land uses, according to the comprehensive plan, to the north, south, east, and west are also low-density residential. Zoning designation for the property is RT2, that's the traditional neighborhood single and two-family residence district. And surrounding zoning to the north, south, east, and west is also RT2. Current site and land use. It was commercial. It's currently vacant on the street level, formerly the House of Nutrition. And there is an apartment on the second floor of the building. Current area land uses include to the north, south, east, and west, single-family residences. Notice was provided to all property owners within 350 feet of the subject property and published in the Journal on November 9th, 2024. We did receive one email letter from a neighboring property that is included in your staff report as attachment 8. And I could either read that out or we can show it on the screen here, but that letter was in support of the proposed interim use permit. The intent, so I'm going to give a little bit of background here on what is the purpose and intent of the interim use permit, along with some of the review criteria, and then go into our comprehensive plan and some history. So an interim use permit may be allowed based on any of the following provisions found in section 2.4E of the zoning ordinance. So first is to allow a land use for a limited period of time that reasonably utilizes the property in a manner that is otherwise not consistent with the comprehensive plan nor permitted in the applicable zoning district. Could be 2, to provide the city with a reasonable degree of discretion in determining the suitability of certain designated uses for specified zoning districts. 3, to allow a use that is presently acceptable, not permitted within the zoning district, and with anticipated development may not be acceptable in the future. And 4, to allow a temporary use of property until a particular date, till the occurrence of a particular event, or until zoning regulations no longer permit it. Approval of an interim use at a location within a zoning classification does not mean that the same interim use can be conducted on any other parcel with that specific zoning classification. So what we mean by that is that interim use permit is for that specific property. Just if it were granted or denied on a specific property, that doesn't mean it resonates to all those other properties in that same zoning district. It's a specific application. Each application for an interim use permit will be individually reviewed on its own merits, and the facts surrounding the subject property will determine the appropriateness of the proposed use. So since creating the interim use permit regulations in the city's zoning ordinance in New Ulm, which we did in 2019, 4 interim use permits have been issued. They were all for residential properties. The first one was Kala Woodworking, and that, if you remember, that was for them to do start their woodworking operation in a detached structure on their property, in that case, the detached garage. Then we had a float tank therapy business by Jennifer Suker Molden. Then we had a gunsmithing sales operation by Brett Meyer, and that was again for a detached building, his garage on his property. And then we had a dog grooming business by Swinsteads, and that is actually in their residence. Section 2.4 interim use permit review criteria. So the approval of an interim use permit application requires that the city find conditions can be established to ensure that all of the following criteria will always be met. A, the use will not adversely impact nearby properties through nuisance, noise, traffic, dust, or odor, or unsightliness, and will not otherwise adversely impact health, safety, and welfare of the community. B, the use will not adversely impact implementation of the comprehensive plan. C, the date, event, or change in circumstances that will terminate the use is identified with certainty. D, the applicant agrees to all conditions that the city council deems appropriate to allow the use, including the condition that the owner may be required to provide appropriate financial surety to cover the cost of removing the interim use and any interim structures upon the expiration of the interim use permit. E, the proposed use will not hinder development of the site. F, the use will not create an excessive burden on existing parks, schools, or streets and any other public facilities which will serve or are proposed to serve the area. G, adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and necessary facilities have been or will be provided. H, the applicant has signed a consent agreement stating that the applicant, owner, operator, tenant, and/or user has no entitlement to future reapproval of the interim use permit, as well as agreeing that the interim use will not impose additional costs on the public if necessary for the public to fully or partially take the property in the future. I, the use shall not cause or impose additional costs to the city of New Ulm. And lastly, J, the interim use will adhere to any applicable additional criteria outlined in section 2.4E8 for the proposed use. Those are the criteria that we'll use to determine whether or not to grant an interim use permit, and that's what's on the findings of fact form. So, what are we actually proposing on this site? Project description. So the purpose of the RT2 zoning district is to provide for low density 1 and 2 unit dwellings generally located in the grid development pattern along and with directly related complementary uses. The applicant is proposing to operate a bakery and retail space in an existing building on the first floor at 914 5th North Street. This bakery would operate in the front 2/3 of the building. In that space, the applicant is planning on installing all of the kitchen equipment and have space for baking along with retail space for their baked goods. The rear third of the building would be used for storage of items necessary for the bakery. The retail space will consist of selling baked goods, but not limited to bread, scones, cookies, and bars. Talking with the applicant, one of her main products that she produces is sourdough bread, and that would take place on this site. The retail space would be opened Thursday and Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. There will not be indoor seating for the customers to eat their purchased items. That's what the applicant has indicated to us. The applicant anticipates that they will be making up to 150 loaves of bread daily. The amount of additional baked goods is yet to be determined. The application has stated that a majority of the bakery items they produce will be delivered to customers off-site. Currently, that's what they're doing with their baking operation. The applicant will be baking and using the building up to 5 days per week, Wednesday through Sunday, and the hours will generally be from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. There is a gravel parking lot to the west of the building, and there are approximately 4 off-street parking stalls in the gravel parking area. Second floor of the building is an apartment. I was told the apartment was renovated within the last year. The applicant's proposal is to continue to rent out that space as an apartment into the future. The applicant would request the interim use permit for a period of 5 years. That's the maximum we can allow for an interim use permit. Of course, they have the option to ask for another 5 years at the end of that first 5-year period. So here's where I'm going to give some history on the building because I think that's not only interesting but important to this application. From what I can find, the building was constructed on the property in 1946. At that time, it was owned by Art Muirfield, and he had Art Muirfield's electric motor shop, as far as I can tell, in that building. Following that, in 1959 through 1962, Abel's Electric started out of that building. And from there, in 1964 to 1967, there was Miller's Upholstery operating out of there. From 70 to 77, it was Gary's Outboard Motors. And then from 1998 to 2023 was the House of Nutrition. And according to the Brown County Assessor's records, they have maintained that the street level of the building has always been commercial, and the second floor has been an apartment since it was constructed. Staff met with Mr. Hesse and the applicant on November 12th of 2024, so just a couple weeks ago. In the discussion with the property owners, Mr. Hesse indicated that the property was owned by Lucille Walters, and that the street level floor was being used for motorcycle or motor repair shop. Hesse's purchased the property from Lucille Walters in 1998. Since the Hesse's purchased the property, they operated the House of Nutrition out of the building from 98 to 2023. Mr. Hesse stated that when the House of Nutrition was in operation, they had anywhere from 20 to 30 customers daily. And he stated that there were typically no more than 3 to 4 cars from customers at the site at any given time. It is understood currently that the House of Nutrition has not been in operation for over 12 months. We looked at the traffic counts on 5th North, and in the most recent traffic study in 2021, there were between 3,080 cars to 3,308 vehicles that pass by the property daily. And that's between Garden Street, North Garden Street, and North Broadway. So, comprehensive plan guidance. The New Ulm Comprehensive Plan adopted in 2024 has the following guidance that could be related to this request. So in Chapter 4, Land Use, one of the pieces of guidance was that to provide land use flexibility. The real estate market, construction costs, and needs of the community periodically experience shifts. As such, it is important to build some flexibility into the city's land use designations and decisions. Land use policies and decision-making should allow for contemporary and flexible regulations for the consideration of new development and redevelopment proposals and concepts. It would also be more responsive to future market conditions and demands. But at the same time, in Chapter 5, Housing, goal number 3, is to preserve the character of existing neighborhoods that give New Ulm a sense of place. Strategy 3.7 says that we should protect neighborhoods from incompatible land uses through the effective zoning and city code requirements. It appears, or staff's interpretation is that it appears the comprehensive plan both encourages flexibility in land uses throughout the city and at the same time strives to protect existing neighborhoods. So, in order to recommend approval of the permit, Commission will need to determine that the request meets the standards provided in Section 2.4E of the zoning ordinance. Those are the interim use permit standards. And those standards can also be found on the interim use permit findings of fact worksheet, which is actually attachment 7 in your staff report. We have 8 attachments for this request. The first one is the actual interim use permit request by Holly Schaefer and Hesse's. Second one is attachment number 2 is a site location map. So to the, let's call it the northwest, this is St. Anthony's School, and then down here to the south, northeast, and then here to the southwest is Alina Hospital. Attachment 3 is a zoning map, and as you can see, anywhere in this tan color is the RT2 zoning district. Attachment 4 is the site map. So outlined in red here is the property. This is a split corner lot. On the front half of the lot is a single-family dwelling. This is on the rear half of the lot, abutting the alley. Attachment 5 is land use map. So this map comes out of the comprehensive plan, and anything gold here is low-density residential land uses. Attachment 6 are ground level photos. So this is the front of the building. I'm sure you are all familiar with that building and have seen that before, but that's the front of the building. I'm assuming this here would be the customer entrance as well. Here is the gravel parking area. The fence is what separates the property from the residential property to the north. Here is the rear of the building and also the entrance to the apartment in the upper floor. That's taken from the alley. It was hard to really get a great shot inside and to see the whole space. I tried to. I'm not a great photographer, but this is standing in, let's call it the northwest corner, facing Fifth North. Okay. So this would be that front 2/3 of the building where the baking and retail space would take place. This is the rear 1/3 of the building. There's a bathroom back here, and this is also where all the HVAC, mechanical, and electrical equipment is. Tried to draw it out for everybody, kind of how this is divided up, so you can see from top down where the spaces are. That's in attachment 6 as well. Then we have attachment 7, the findings of fact. Attachment 8 is that letter from the neighbor regarding this request. So staff's evaluation. Staff's evaluation is that the application complies with the standards for granting an interim use permit. We do acknowledge that it's unknown how much traffic will be generated from the retail sales of bakery goods at the site. There has been a duration of time the building has been vacant and no additional retail traffic entered the site. If traffic and vehicles entering the property are the concern of the Planning Commission, the staff would recommend considering requiring screening of the parking lot to avoid vehicle headlights shining onto the neighbor's property, if that's a concern of the Planning Commission. Considering that this property has been commercial in nature since it was constructed, as far as we can find back in history, staff believes that the proposed use would meet the guidance set forth in the comprehensive plan, as it would not result in a new development of a commercial property in a residential neighborhood, rather again occupy an existing commercial space in a residential neighborhood. The granting of an interim use permit does not permanently grant the use on the property, rather it's for a specific period of time. In this case, staff would support the maximum of 5 years, and after 5 years, the permit can be reviewed again, and if issues arise, they can be addressed at that time. We do acknowledge there are potential odors generated from the baking process. We do not know if those odors will impact nearby neighbors. Baking will take place daily and consistently, and would likely be more than what's generated from a residence. We have recommended conditions if the Planning Commission were to approve the request, and there are 7 of them. One, that the use shall comply with standards set forth in section 2.4E of the zoning ordinance. Again, those are the interim use permit criteria. 2, that the interim use permit approval be for a period of 5 years. 3, that the hours of operation for the bakery will generally be from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Wednesday through Sunday, and the retail space will be open from Thursday, and Friday from 8 to 5 p.m. and 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturday, Sunday. And no activity shall take place on the site after 9 p.m. each day. 4, that customer parking would be encouraged to take place in the hard surface locations on the applicant's property. 5, that the size of the use will not expand nor be moved from this location identified in the application. 6, that the applicant property owner will pay the cost to record the resolution, approving the interim use permit with the Brown County Recorder's Office. And then lastly, 7, if the property were to change ownership, the interim use permit shall be null and void. If the new owner wishes to continue the use at this site as the bakery, they will be required to apply for a new conditional use permit. We might want to reword that condition, because currently the Hessies own the property. If I understand correctly, if the property transfers over to Schaefer's, we would want that condition to apply to when the Schaefer's own the property.
Just one other note. In that particular item, it references a conditional use permit. I think you mean interim use
Yeah,
permit.
interim use permit. So, we had 2 potential motions, one to approve, recommend approval of the interim use permit with conditions, and one to recommend denial. And that concludes the staff report.
Thank you. Is there any questions for the staff before I continue? I would like to say, first off, that I would like to do the finding of facts form in the public hearing portion of the meeting, if that's all right with everyone here, because there's questions to be considered that are not addressed. Is there anyone here from the Schaefers to, okay, could you please approach the microphone and state your name and address, please?
I'm Holly Schaefer, 826 North Payne Street.
Okay, great. I have one question right now, and that is in regards to supplies. Most commercial bakeries have semis delivering. How are you going to handle being in a residential area? with
I'm
the
hoping to do it once a week for a delivery and then through the alley just because the back door is there and the storage area is right there. So you can just,
via semi, like food service delivery?
yeah.
Okay, then for the city, is that graded for semi-use? Rated, is there going to be a problem with?
I can verify that with the city engineer. I know Fifth North is, but I can verify that with the city engineer. I don't assume that would be a problem. Garbage trucks use that all the time,
But think about semi-trailers,
Yeah.
turning.
I'm concerned about a height requirement. I know that there should be a clear path for semis through most alleys, but you never know.
Right.
And they'd be turning on 6th, which is a little narrower street. Is that, would you check with the city engineer on that?
Certainly. One thing too, maybe Ms. Schaefer would want to check in with is whether or not it's going to be a semi or straight box truck, because those are 2 different animals.
Certainly.
So
Okay, would you, excuse me, thank you. Are there any other questions for Ms. Schaefer while she's here?
I do have a question, but I think it's more for John.
Okay.
Or Dave.
Thank you.
So it says, number 5, the size of the use will not expand nor be moved from the location identified in the application. So hoping this becomes tremendously successful for you if we approve it, and you want to expand if she would want to expand her hours of operation to be Monday through Friday, how does that get handled?
I think this one is specifically talking about the footprint of the building.
Thank you. Okay, answers my question.
But if we're going to, we have these conditions in here which does state the hours. If those were to change, we would either have to address that now, or we have to address that after a period of 5 years, or they could come back to the planning commission.
As far as the hours of operation, I think it's, I think it's good that on Thursday and Friday you don't open until after 8, because generally that's a very busy street. Fifth North is very busy for morning traffic for the schools. So, as a bus driver, passing by there, so added traffic in that area wouldn't be great, and that's why I think the 8 o'clock start time is okay.
Okay.
Just for comment.
Are there any other questions?
Madam Chair, I'm just curious if the applicant could tell us what type of odors, if any, do you anticipate from the operation of the business? Odors, smells.
Approach the microphone again, please. Thank you.
Just standard baking odors. Currently, my house smells like bread all the time, or garlic, or cinnamon. So,
Okay. Do you anticipate having to use fans to remove?
yep, it's a state requirement to have ventilation system for any oven use or anything. So that would eliminate any stuff like that.
Okay, so will there be a fan noise then that will be?
Inside the building, maybe. I'm not sure. I just had a guy look at it the other day, so we're still in the process of that.
I might be able to answer that.
Thank you.
If I'm not mistaken, talking with our building official, Elwood Zabel, they'd be required to have an oven hood, and that oven hood is what would have the fan and be pushing the air outside. So the fan would be internal, pushing the air outside through a ductwork.
From my experience, that's not noise for the neighborhood. That's noise that's internal within the building, and it's not that loud.
And I also did check with another in town that is fairly close to residences to see if they had any complaints on odor, noise, and that type of thing, and they hadn't had any at this time.
My only concern again is going to traffic in the alley. Can you pull up the alley view of that property, please? Is the residential parking all in that area, in the alleys? Are there a lot of? Okay. I'm worried about like a delivery truck at 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning and someone not being able to exit the building.
If it's a straight truck, they'll be able to use the parking lot.
Okay.
If it's a semi, they wouldn't be able to. So we'll have to, maybe Ms. Schaefer can get some clarification before this goes to the city council
Okay.
about whether deliveries are going to come from a straight truck or a semi truck.
Yeah. It would be much easier if it were a smaller delivery truck than a semi. Living in an area where I have semis delivering across the street at the Senior Citizen Center, I know that that's often blocked off there.
Sure.
And that's my concern. And I also see like a semi blocking traffic at the Baccarat because it backs up to their short dock, and that's often a question. Okay.
That's changed by the food service, though. I mean, the food service, they could go with one size truck and then change it shortly thereafter, depending on what their delivery schedule is. So just to know, like,
Yes.
they may tell you it's a small truck, but a month later, they could change it.
Yeah, I
So-
understand that.
And I would also say, I mean, I work right by the Baccarat, and yeah, it's annoying that they come in and they back up, but that's part of living in a community. So, I mean, the operation to unload the products is 20, 30 minutes, and then they're gone. So it's not. I mean, it might be annoying, but there's two ends to that alley. You know, you can drive out the other end.
It depends on where the truck's parked, if you're trying to get out of your garage. Yeah, that's my statement.
Well,
And I
what I don't
understand,
know
yeah.
is that house that's right up against there,
Right.
is
I-
that's just an odd place to have that one house positioned right behind it. But is that garage right onto the alley there? The one to the north?
Yes.
And the garage exits right onto the alley? Yeah.
That was it's one house that's impacted if the semi is delivering there. That's kind of what my point is. But
I used to live right across the street from the House of Nutrition. It was actually my first apartment a very short while ago. And I really appreciate Ann Grunert's letter because that was my take of the neighborhood, was that everybody really enjoyed having the House of Nutrition there. And there was never a ton of traffic. It really made for a neat neighborhood. Parking wasn't an issue. I don't recall delivering ever being an issue, but I don't think that was the case with the House of Nutrition. But it just made for a really neat neighborhood, and I think that would be the same. Having a bakery there would be really cool. The only concern I have looking at this is that house that's right across from the fence, if that would be an issue with headlights of vehicles, and if we would need to ask that that fence be changed. It's my only concern looking at that. Based on the business hours, I wouldn't think it would be too much of an issue with lighting, but at 7 a.m. it's still dark. If somebody's coming up to park, are they going to be flashing their headlights into the neighbor's house?
So the letter that we received from the neighbor is the only response we got to the notice that was provided to all property owners? Is
Yes.
that correct? Okay. And they have all been notified? No other comments?
I mean, I personally think it's a great addition to the neighborhood. I grew up, I'm old enough to remember all the little grocery stores in every little neighborhood, and Sunday after church, you went to Nuns, or you went to Tauschik's, or you went to these little areas and picked things up. It was just the way it was done. I can't imagine being a youngster not wanting to go and get my bakery on the way home from school or something, a cookie. I think there's a lot of people that use Baccarat now for that purpose, just for a little stop and pick something up. It's a great addition. I can't imagine this place generating any more traffic than the hospital currently does, or noise with the ambulances and/or helicopters coming in. My concern is just, I would like her to check on the truck traffic, parking, and the type of delivery truck for the city council. Are there any other questions before we begin the finding of facts?
I just wanted to make one more comment. In all of the meetings that we attended over the last year for building the comprehensive plan that we have now, one of the things that was talked about many, many times was trying to create that sense of neighborhood and trying to be creative in how we do that. And this, to me, is the perfect example of something that will do that. It could become a gathering spot in this neighborhood. I mean, I can see families walking there on whatever day to go get their loaf of bread for the day, or getting the kids a cookie or whatever it is. I think it's just a really great idea, and I was really excited to see it come before the commission. So.
I agree.
I'd like to just comment, I think it would be a great addition, it's just, repurposing the building, or bringing a new life to it. And, we're seeing a lot of these home occupational businesses where they need to get a retail setting, and, we're using the interim permit as a tool to see if the business works there, and, in those regards, so.
I'm looking at Street View on Google, and it doesn't look like that building has a garage right there, the one immediately following. So I can't see it all.
Can you pick
But
up
there's- but
the
the-
other
the next
view of
garage-
the parking lot?
No, it's not in any of the pictures.
Right there, yeah.
Yeah, that's the house. And it looks like a garage, but there's no door from Street View. So,
Alley?
yeah, in the alley, that I can see. It's not a great view, but. It's on the backside? Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments before we begin the finding of facts?
I have one question. John, if we were concerned about this fence being an issue with lighting and whatnot, would we need to do something about that now, or?
You would probably want to make it a condition for screening.
So add an item 8 to the conditions. Is that your recommendation?
When vehicles park, do they park facing that fence, or do they park facing the House of Nutrition? Oh, they do.
They are entering though, so the lights are flashing into that, yeah, that hour of the morning.
Yeah, but you could say that the lights you pull in there is gonna flash at the house too, you know,
Yeah.
so where do you quit? You know, when
Right.
someone's leaving their house in the morning, early morning hours to go to work, they back out of their driveway, the lights are gonna be, you know,
Right.
regardless, you know. I mean, the lights, you got how many ambulances a day that go by,
Yeah,
so.
And we
there's
didn't-
there's a house that when they leave my neighborhood, and it's 5, 6 houses down, but the way their alley is, or their driveway is, it shines right at the right angle, right into my bedroom. So, I mean, it's just part of living in a community, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I mean,
And none of the neighbors voiced any concerns. You know, they were notified and,
well, I mean, chances are that homeowner right next door has been there and there's been a business
Yeah, he's probably used to lights.
Right, true.
in those regards.
I would note that that house to the north is a rental.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
Thank you. Is there anything else before we begin the finding of facts? Okay, you ready, John?
Yeah.
Will the use adversely impact nearby properties through nuisance, noise, traffic, dust, odor, or unsightliness, and will not otherwise adversely impact the health, safety, and welfare of the community?
Staff responded that since the building is currently vacant, any traffic generated from the use will be in addition to what takes place now. We don't know that there will be odor. We don't know that there will be odor generated from the baking process. We do know that there will be odors generated from the baking process, but to the extent that it adversely impacts other properties is still unknown. So staff was looking for direction from the Planning Commission to make a determination on that question.
Well,
can I make a thought? We live with Firmenich
Yeah, right,
in our community.
yeah.
well, and I'm a walker, and I go past Becky's Bakes and I go past Baccarat, and I can honestly say that at different times of the day, I don't detect an odor that is unpleasant. May make me hungry,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's not an unpleasant odor, you know, so.
So I think then the question to you all is, will this adversely impact neighbors through those different items, nuisance, noise, traffic, dust, or odor, or not?
I would say it would not adversely.
Not.
I don't think so either. No.
I said, I think we have an agreement that the answer is no.
Okay.
All right?
Well, our
Question?
answer is yes, because we're saying the interim use will not adversely impact. So we're saying that's true. It will not. Here we go again.
Yeah, here we go again.
Define yes and no, yes. Okay. Will the use adversely impact implementation of the comprehensive plan?
Staff responded that the use is located within an existing building. The comprehensive plan considered land use flexibility as well as preserving the character of existing neighborhoods. Because of the statements in the comprehensive plan, and since there is no planned change to the outside of the building, staff believes the use will not impact the implementation of the comprehensive plan.
My personal feeling is that it's been a business since it was built, so I don't see any impact that would affect the plan. But I would like to ask all of you to answer that question.
I would agree.
I agree.
Agreed.
All right. is the date, event, or change in circumstances that will terminate the interim use identified with certainty?
Staff responded yes, that the applicant requested a 5-year time period. Staff would also recommend that the permit be allowed for a 5-year period, and that would be following the approval of the city council, if the city council approves so.
Does everyone agree?
Agreed.
Does the applicant agree to all conditions that the city council deems appropriate to allow the use, including condition that the owner may be required to provide an appropriate financial surety to cover the cost of removing the interim use and any interim structures upon the expiration of the interim use permit?
So staff did actually share the staff report with the applicant to look at the conditions. So they saw the conditions and agreed with them. And there is no financial surety applicable to this request.
Do we agree?
Agreed.
Thank you. Will the proposed use hinder the permanent development of the site?
Staff responded no. The property has been used as a commercial space on the street level since it was constructed in 1946. There's an apartment on the second level. The applicant is not proposing to change the outside of the structure. There will be internal changes to the building, but staff does not believe it will hinder future development of the property.
Commissioners agree?
Agreed.
Will the use create an excessive burden on existing parks, schools, streets, and other public facilities which serve or are proposed to serve the area?
Staff responded no. There are no public facilities such as parks or schools in the nearby proximity. There is no anticipated negative impact on the city streets or utilities. And again, I would note that we'll also check in with the city engineer about if semi-traffic could be an issue there, and then go further with Ms. Schaefer on how they plan on dealing with semi-traffic in that area.
Thank you. Do we agree?
Agreed.
Agree.
Are there or will there be provided adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and necessary facilities?
Staff responded yes, there are adequate utilities and access to the property. There is no change to the property that would require additional services.
Do we agree? Has the applicant signed a consent agreement stating that the applicant, owner, operator, tenant, and/or user has no entitlement or future reapproval of the interim use permit, as well as agreeing that the interim use will not impose additional cost on the public if it is necessary for the public to fully or partially take the property in the future?
Staff responded yes, a signed consent agreement is a condition of the approval of the request. It is not anticipated that the public will need to take the property in the future, and there are no changes to the existing property that would warrant additional construction.
Do we agree?
Agreed.
Will the use cause or impose additional costs to the city of New Ulm?
Staff responded no, that we do not believe the use will cause the city to incur any additional costs.
Will the interim use, do we agree?
Agreed.
Thank you. Will the interim use adhere to any applicable additional criteria outlined in section 2.4E8 for the proposed use?
It is, staff responded yes, that it is a recommended condition that the interim use complies with section 2.4E8. And that, what that means is that in addition to the conditions, they have to respond to those criteria in the interim use section of the zoning ordinance, and that's what that's in reference to.
Do we agree?
Agreed.
Thank you. It is my opinion that we've agreed with all of the finding of facts. So again, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval with conditions. The interim use application of Holly and Justin Schaefer on behalf of Stephen and Jennifer Hess to allow the operation of a bakery business on the property located in an R2 zoning district on property legally described as the rear half of Lot 14, Block 147, north of Center Street.
May I ask if your proposal includes a condition 8, or is it just the conditions listed? The condition 8 was the
I would
screening.
say, yeah, I would say the conditions that are on the staff report with the,
Without the screening?
no, not with condition 8, just with what's here, but there are some things that we talked about adjusting with the sale, that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Rewording, slightly some of those things that were talked about.
Thank
I
you.
don't think the screening condition is needed. That's my.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This concludes the public hearing portion of the Hesse Schaefer interim use permit.
So that will go to the city council on December 3rd,
Okay. Okay.
4:30. I want to verify it's December. Yep, December 3rd at 4:30.
Thank you for attending.
Good luck.
Good luck with your business.
yeah.
That's very
Yeah.
exciting.
I want to see an article in the paper when I can pick up my cookies.
Her scones are also really good. Yes, very good.
Good. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing for simple lot division for Haas Simple Lot Division, Lot 14, Block 77, north of Center Street. Staff report?
Okay, the applicant in this particular case is Leo and Carol Haas. The street address is 516 11th North Street. Property is located east of North Broadway and north of 11th North Street. Deadline for a decision on this particular request is January 14th of 2025. The land use designation for the property is medium density residential. As is the same designation applies to properties to the north, south, and west. It's low-density residential to the east. The zoning is RT2, which is single and two-family residence district. It's a traditional neighborhood. The RT2 zoning applies to all surrounding properties. The current site use, we have 2 single-family dwellings. We have single-family dwellings on the on the 4 sides of the property. Notice none is required. No comments have been received to date. Lot 14 is fully developed and complies with city zoning ordinance requirements. The lot is generally level. Lot 14 has a standard lot dimensions of 50 by 165. Total lot area is 8,250 square feet. The owner is proposing to split the lot equally and locate one of the existing single-family dwellings on each new parcel. Both new parcels would have approximate lot dimensions of 50 by 82.5 and a total lot area of 4,125 square feet. The minimum lot width is 50 feet, minimum lot depth is 80 feet, and the minimum lot area is 4,000 square feet, and that's, from the zoning ordinance. The proposed legal descriptions would be as follows. Parcel A would be the front half of Lot 14, Block 77, north of Center Street. Parcel B would be the rear half of Lot 14, Block 77, north of Center Street. There are required setbacks, but none would impact the lot division. The staff has not been advised of any utility conflicts caused by the proposed lot division. There are 5 attachments. The first is the applicant's letter request. Second is a site location map. The third is the zoning map. The fourth is a simple lot division map. The green dashed line shows you the approximate location of the new lot line, and attachment 5 are ground level photographs. Staff would recommend approval of the simple lot division with conditions since it complies with city code requirements. The approval would be subject to the following conditions. Number 1, the applicant will record the resolution authorizing the simple lot division with the Brown County Recorder's Office. We actually would want to modify number 1 just a little bit and to read that the lot division is effective with the recording of the resolution for the simple lot division. We failed to make that change on the document. Number 2, the applicant will pay the application fee of $175. We have received a check in that amount, so that's been taken care of. And number 3 is the applicant will provide a 5-foot utility easement along the north property line of parcel B. That is necessary in order to provide electrical service to the front residence, because we now could be dealing with 2 separate property owners, and that's why we need the easement. There are 2 motions provided. One is to approve and one is to deny the request.
So which is it, the tan house that has the easement or the white house?
It'll be the house that is closest to the alley.
Okay. The tan, or,
Our electric system in this particular case is based in the alley, and
doesn't seem like there's 5 feet there. Just from the aerial view, it's very tight.
yeah.
So one of the things I should always point this out. So those aerial views, you're looking at the whole roof. There's the eave.
Hmm.
So that's another 24 inches typically.
I was just, yeah.
If you look at attachment 4, is that what you have there, John?
Yep.
You know, there's a little bit of distance there.
Are there any other questions? I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval with 2 conditions, with 3 conditions, right?
2 conditions.
Oh.
They have made the payment of
Oh,
the
okay.
application fee.
With 2 conditions, the simple lot division of Lot 14, Block 77, north of Center Street, City of New Ulm, Brown County, Minnesota, with the legal descriptions to read as follows. Parcel A, the front half of Lot 14, north, Block 77, north of Center Street, City of New Ulm, Brown County, Minnesota. Parcel B, the rear half of Lot 14, Block 77, north of Center Street, City of New Ulm, Brown County, Minnesota.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This closes the public hearing portion of the simple lot division for the Haas property. Moving on to report city council decisions concerning planning commissioners' matters in October of 2024.
Okay, at the City Council's November 5th meeting, they approved the variance request of Dwight and Denise Hughes at 1 Indian Point Drive, and that was a unanimous vote. And that was to allow a storage shed to be located 5 feet from a right-of-way. Another item, they approved a request for tax abatement assistance for Rebound Real Estate LLC. That is for the property at 214 North Minnesota Street. That's the former Lamplighter site. And so what tax abatement would do would provide financial assistance to the project. The amount is something that we're calculating at the present time. Unfortunately, it's probably not going to be a significant amount, but it'll be something that'll hopefully help. At the November 19th meeting, they conducted the public hearing on the final plat of River Haven Addition. That plat is located at 1800 North Highland Avenue and is the location of a proposed combination of different types of housing units totaling 118 units, and that was unanimous. There were conditions with that, as recommended by the Planning Commission. Another one was also added at the meeting, and that was that currently the property is owned by the city. The plat is to be signed by the new property owner, which is River Haven, I think, LLC. And so there obviously has to be a sale take place before, the plat can be signed. So that was made a condition as well. That would conclude the city council items. I would just like to report on a couple other things that we've talked about previously. At last month's meeting, we had a discussion about housing trusts. And so we checked with the Economic Development Authority, and it's something that they're aware of and may be looking at in the future. We brought it up with a group of people that's basically staff from different government entities in the New Ulm area about whether or not it would be appropriate to establish or to look at establishing something like this. And the group said it is something that at a minimum, we should look at. It may not be appropriate for us, but it's something we should look at. And I might note that just before I came down for the meeting today, I did have a conversation with someone with the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership, and she explained that they currently, within their organization, have a group consisting of Wilmer, Worthington, Mankato, St. Peter, and that, that participate in this program. So it obviously, one would think is something that we perhaps would benefit from as well. Earlier this week, I participated in a webinar where done by Minnesota Housing, and they talked about funding that's going to be available for housing trusts in the next year, first quarter, second quarter of 2025. And during that discussion, they mentioned that there are 53 communities in the state of Minnesota that have housing trusts. Now, most of them are in the metro area, but nonetheless, that is a form, a mechanism to make housing affordable, for people. And that's the focus of it is on, families that currently don't qualify, to purchase properties to try to drive the cost down so that maybe they will be able to do so. But it is something that, at least from a staff standpoint, we want to get more information and, perhaps bring the topic forward to the either the EDA and or the city council for their consideration and discussion. Okay.
Can you answer a question? Does Habitat for Humanity fall within would they fall within that trust? Housing or properties developed for or with?
I don't know for certain what the answer would be. I would think that something like that would qualify,
I
though,
would think so.
but I'm not certain.
Okay.
Because I think it's kind of two separate issues.
Yeah, okay.
The second thing I wanted to mention is that, the city has been working on a strategic plan, and the strategic plan has been, at least a draft of it has been released and is available for review. So it's kind of in a comment section. They're looking for comments. And so we, I think on Monday, decided, no,
I just sent it right now.
you did.
To all of you. So there's a link in the press release or social, a link in any one of those documents, but it's at the bottom and you have to highlight it and then put it in your web browser. That'll take you to it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Staff has reviewed it and has offered comments. There are, I guess, 62 kind of activities that I guess could take place. There are timelines for them. But they're looking for community participation and, input. So please feel free to look at that. The last thing I wanted to report on is probably something that you're all aware of, but the contractor is on site to take down Georgia's Ballroom. They intend to start December 2nd. They think it will take 2 to 3 weeks. There was a meeting held yesterday here about the project, and there was a representative of the developer, the demolition contractor, and then the contractor that is kind of overseeing the demolition. And they seem to know their stuff, and but that just starts shortly then. That would conclude my remarks.
Thank you. HBC?
So there was one item at the HPC. It's kind of exciting news. We were approached by State Historical Preservation Office to host the 2025 Preserve Minnesota Conference. So it's kind of a conference for actually the region where they want to highlight a number of different historical properties in the city that have worked with the State Historic Preservation Office or other historic entities to help fund that type of thing. So they asked the city of New Ulm to participate in that. Last time we did this in New Ulm, we actually have had this in New Ulm in 2003. It's going to be a little bit of a bigger lift on staff's end, but we're going to be asking for a lot of help with getting this conference up and rolling because there's a fair amount of people that will be coming to the community for that.
As someone who's attended many of those conferences, it's a big deal for the city. It does highlight a lot of different areas in the city. And I have seen a lot of exciting things happen in cities that I would never have had the opportunity to see otherwise. So it is very nice, and I would urge everyone to contribute to that. Yeah.
When is it, John?
So September
Mm-hmm.
of 25.
Right.
Great.
It's an interesting thing because I know it's been in Little Falls and they highlighted the fact that there were a lot of businesses in their downtown area that were vacant and what they were doing about them, things that they were doing to attract business, which is an odd thing that you would think they would highlight, but it worked. I mean, it brought a lot of attention to some of that areas. They also highlighted for Camp Ripley, which was very interesting. Hastings was another one that had a great a good deal to do with Red Wing also. I mean, they highlighted a lot of important areas in the city. Duluth, it was interesting. Very interesting. Is there anything else to come before the commission?
I just have a couple quick things.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave, for the follow-up on the housing trust concept. I was hoping to hear more, and I appreciate you bringing it back and keeping us updated. Thank you. And then I think it falls within the Ballywick, but I see the state is here taking down trees on Broadway. Are they replanting any of those?
I think, yeah, that is the plan.
It is the plan, but not this fall anymore.
No,
They
I
would
don't think so,
plant
no.
in spring then.
And in fact, I'm not working with those guys directly. It's more the engineering staff. But
Right.
they're not even going to be taking all of the ash along Broadway this year. So they've kind of ranked them as far as like how dead they are and are taking the worst ones out.
Oh, I wondered. Okay, thank you.
I would also note, though, that they are not replacing the trees that are in the median.
Yeah.
Oh. All right,
Extremely unfortunate.
yes.
Mhm. Okay.
And the reason is because they apparently have equipment that they think the trees would get in the way of, is my understanding.
And the next, we decided this during the last, during a doodle poll, but December 19th
Right.
is going to be the next planning commission meeting at 4:30.
Okay. Is that it? If so, we stand adjourned. Thank you.